you want to improve the quality of the video output on an old Atari 8-bit computer, there's a number of ways you can go about it. You could either do one of the super video mods, as they're called, which improves the onboard video circuit and gives you better quality composite video or S-video output. Or you could go for an aftermarket plug-in type of device which completely replaces the video circuit entirely with a much more modern circuit and gives you a very much higher quality of S-video or composite video output. Or you could install one of the modules which provides RGB video output, and recently we can even get DVI output from the Atari 8-bit. So let's have a look one by one at what's available. So the first one is UAV. So this is the UAV, which was designed by Brian with a Y at the Atari Age Forum. And this board plugs into the CD4050 socket on the Atari. And these jumpers need to be configured depending on the how the given Atari model uses the gates on the CD4050 chip. They're all different. And the new signals, which are generated right on the board here from the input from the GTIA chip, come out of here, and so you can take them to the existing video jack on the motherboard after disconnecting it from the video circuit, and it works beautifully well. I think the quality, since it uses modern parts, it's pretty much as good as you're going to get until you unless you jump ship and go for RGB or DVI output. And this design was incorporated onto Jürgen's Supercolor CPU card for the 400 and 800, so pretty much every model is covered. And I've got this in a couple of machines, and of course in the 1088 XEL specifically, and I can highly and heartily recommend them. So once we leave S-video behind and composite video, we move on to VBXE, which I think is probably 2 or 3 times the price or more of UAV. It's a much more complex device. I think that the last time I looked, they were about £80 on Latharek's website. This was designed by Candelo Sin and Electron, and this goes into the Antic socket on the motherboard. This particular one's configured for an XL machine, so it's low profile. So the keyboard can go over the top here. It's based on an FPGA chip, an AVR chip. And this board actually supplies the master clock for the whole system. And from this header here, you get 15 kHz RGB video, which you need to route to a video jack of your choosing. DIN 13 works well. So this sits in the Antic socket, and the Antic chip goes on the top of here. These have been around for about a decade now. Excellent video quality. It can be a little hard to find a monitor that will display this signal. It's perfectly fine with SCART equipped televisions and monitors, which we have quite a lot of in Europe, but sadly it's much more difficult in the United States to find something that will display 15 kHz RGB, so you may have to get a scan doubler, which makes life a little bit more difficult. But yes, almost pretty much the standard for an add-on video card, because it not only does it provide extra improved video quality, it also provides a kind of a graphics co-processing system and much higher resolutions and color depths into the bargain. This one's got a little jumper on it actually, because I had to repair it. It was donated in a faulty state, but thank you very much to the person who donated that board. It transforms the graphical capabilities of the Atari when it's fitted, so that's another option. Now finally we have Sophia, and this board plugs into the GTIA socket of the Atari, and It doesn't, unlike the VBXE, it doesn't bring kind of graphics co-processing capabilities, but it does bring very much improved video quality, and it's available in several models. This particular board, this one is for DVI video. So there's the DVI adapter, the DVI adapter that will go into the back of the machine here, and it's got a nice ribbon cable that joins the two together. And so this one provides DVI video at a fixed resolution that you need to decide when ordering the board, because to change the resolution you have to flash the Altera chip, Max 32 chip. It does provide additional extra color depth in the high resolution modes, but the hardware it's not possible to detect this hardware in software, so the couple of extra features provided are a little bit I wouldn't say redundant, but you know, you have to know the hardware is there before you can access them. Whereas with the VBXE, the software can detect the hardware and act accordingly. But these are very nice little devices. They're sort of a midway price-wise between the UAV and the VBXE, and probably a midway in terms of capabilities as well. These were also available with 15 kilohertz RGB output, which is pretty much the same as the VBXE, and component output, and I believe both those signals were available on the same board, but this is the DVI version, and this is the one we're going to fit today in this 800XL here. Now, if DVI video quality isn't good enough for you, you could go for one of these, which is a MacBook with a Retina display. Really, really high quality, and you can't even see the pixels. Now, if none of those options provide sufficiently good video quality for you, you could consider buying a pair of these. Now, these are really inexpensive, and they work not only with Atari 8-bit computer video output, but everything else as well. You simply pop them on your eyes like this, and everything suddenly looks much, much clearer. And they really work well as well. My eyesight's been improved no end since I started wearing these things. Alright, so we're going to fit this board here, the Sophia, to this machine, and it's going to go in the GTIA socket here. I've cheated a bit, and I've already fitted the socket, nice precision socket under the GTIA chip. I'll be doing some desoldering videos later on because I've got the new gadget here which I want to test out. But so there's really very little to do on the board, because all we need to do is fit this connector, plug this in, and install the cable between the two. But what we do need to do is make a hole for the connector in the back of the machine. So here's our case. We're probably better off putting the DVI connector about there. We're not going to fix it to the board. Normally I frown on things that are connected directly to the case, but in this instance it's not so bad, because not only does this detach when you undo these little bolts, which will go through screw holes in the back of the case, the wiring detaches as well. So if you want to take the case apart, it's not going to be any problem at all. So I don't mind that one little bit. If we put it there, it's going to be a bit of a squeeze. The fact is, the user might want to repurpose this switch later on for something else, and it's going to look nice and complete. If we take this switch out, we're going to have a redundant hole here at the back. But if we leave the switch on and put this here, at least it's going to look reasonably complete. 11.5 millimeters or so in diameter here. Okay, so I've roughly marked out the dimensions of the hole that we need for the connector. So I'm now going to Dremel the thing out, and then we'll finish it off with some flat files and hopefully make a nice job of it. Hopefully it'll look good. Alright, so there's the hole roughly cut out with the Dremel. As you can see, it looks ugly as sin at the moment, but with a bit of work from some flat files it's going to look fantastic, I can guarantee it. Okay, so we've got something approximating to a hole shaped more or less like a DVI connector. It's much taller than I would have hoped it would have been. Maybe it would have been better to put the thing there and then we wouldn't have had to make it so high to cover up the old RF modulator hole, but I think it's going to look fine anyway. The main thing is as long as it's neat and straight, it should be okay. So I'm going to clean it up and dress it a little bit and then drill the 2 holes for the connector and then we'll see what it looks like. Alright, so here we are. The finished hole. It's turned out a little bit better than I'd hoped. I was worried that this was going to be a bit too big, but yeah, it's turned out quite nicely and it doesn't look too bad at all. I've sealed it, by the way, with acetone. I don't know if you can see that there. It's been sealed. It looks reasonably good. So if we pop the connector inside, and we'll just do up these. Now don't over tighten these. I had a monitor over the other side of the room there which uses a similar fastening mechanism, well, the same fastening mechanism on the DVI connector, and I used a socket set to tighten it up and it just completely obliterated the plastic around the screw thread because it just went on too tight and squashed the plastic flat. That looks fine. So here we go. There's one DVI connector. You can see the hole's quite tall, but yeah, maybe I should have put it there. I don't know. The owner's going to take the audio from a lead, which I'll make him. It'd be quite nice if this kit, maybe this board, if it had a headphone jack mounted to it. That might be a nice idea for a future revision if you made the board a little bigger and put a headphone jack next to it. But there it is anyway. I think the main thing is that it looks clean and neat. As long as it looks nice and square, it's going to look okay. Alright, I've put the board in the case because I realised after I first screwed this to the back of the case that you can't get the motherboard in afterwards, so I took it off again. I haven't done anything particularly exciting in the meantime. I've wired up 5 volts on the PBI. I've attached the little framework here on the PBI bus connector, just for decoration purposes really, because it's not possible to get either side of the shield back on. The bottom's blocked by the screws in the bottom here, and I'm not going to drill holes in the bottom shield just to get that on, so we're going to put this back on. And there we are, all nice and neat. So we're just about ready for Lanarch now. So we cut the chase and ready for Lanarch. We just pop the board in, so it's going to be the GTI chip. I'm fully expecting this to just work, but we shall see. It's pretty exciting stuff. Haven't had this board in the machine yet. GTI chip in, and now the final piece of the puzzle, if I can remember which way around this cable goes, and indeed which side it goes on. Oops. I could potentially shorten that as well, couldn't I? Maybe later on. Alright, so let's give it a whirl. So let's select the proper input. Oops, missed it. Right, now we need to set the... So this is coming in... Let's try again. I want to see what the resolution is here. So the resolution on here if we have to go in there again, is 1024 by 1280 by 1024 at 60 Hz, because the aspect ratio is horrendous. Let's see if we can fix that. So aspect ratio 4:3 is the only one we're going to get, and that looks good. That looks brilliant. So this is quite interesting because we've got kind of an NTSC color palette here. It's different to PAL. So Sophia does rather a better job of differentiating the palettes between PAL and NTSC, I would say, than VBXE, because VBXE basically presents an identical palette regardless of the TV standard in use. So it does work. Alright, for the pièce de résistance here, we have the keyboard in this machine, which I was going to make a separate video of, replacing the Mylar, but I forgot to press the record button. Just shows you that even those of us who don't work in management are capable of making mistakes. But yeah, so it was like a 5 or 10 minute job, and so we took this Mylar out and we replaced it with this one. The only thing I can remember, this is the best electronics Mylar for a Stackpole keyboard, by the way. The only thing I know that's notable about this Mylar, the replacement, aside from the fact it's a damn sight easier fix than trying to fix the old Mylar, is that it doesn't require this intermediate sheet, because it has around the contacts, so the new equivalent around these contact points, instead of having to separate the two layers with this intermediate layer, they actually have some sort of silicone pad ring around the outside, which is a very nice touch, and it looks beautiful. It's really, really nice, and it works very nicely. So we're going to put this back in the computer, alright, and hopefully find that it goes. Now that's interesting. Now this is to answer a question that was posed regarding the Ultimate 1 MB video I made the other day, that these strain relief clips would block the back of the keyboard here unless I took them off entirely. I suggested that at most I'd probably have to file them down. In this case I don't have to do anything. So with the Stackpole keyboard and this Ultimate 1 MB in this configuration with the strain relief clips on top, there is no clearance problem whatsoever. However, with an Alps keyboard, or possibly an Alps or an AWC, I'd have to check which is in the other machine, what I had to do was file off these little ridged parts at the front, and that does enable me to get the lid down on that machine as well. So, of the most popular keyboard types, one of which doesn't require any amendments whatsoever, it completely clears the back of this, because they are actually further back than the back edge of the keyboard. And the AWC types and Alps types, all you have to do is file off the front edge. Yeah, you can leave the strain relief off if you want, if you're not intending to take the machine apart ever again, but mine tend to come apart quite a lot when I'm testing other stuff. But it's up to you. But it does fit, as you can see, it fits absolutely flush. So just to have another look at the back of the machine here, just to so you can fully appreciate it. And it's I mean, to be fair, the machine is in gorgeous condition anyway. So I've just got to make a cable to tap the audio off the legacy jack, or put another jack in. I'll ask the owner what he wants to do now that he's now that his imagination's been captured by the completed work. Lastly, just a message for one or two people on Atari age who voiced the opinion that they think I'm some sort of egomaniac, or narcissist, or full of self-love or something like that. I just don't see how that's coming across. It's not the way I feel towards myself. I've always been a very humble person. Certainly don't seek attention or anything like that. So yeah, so if I come across as narcissistic, I don't know why it's happening, but it's not something I identify with, certainly not. So that's all I can say on the matter, so I'll just leave that with you. Alright then, thanks very much.